Good evening, you're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas Gopalakrishnan. Viewers, the entire nation is still waiting for answers to one of India's deadliest aviation disasters. On June 12th last year, Air India flight AI171 to London crashed just 32 seconds after takeoff from Ahmedabad, killing 260 people, 241 on board and 19 on the ground. A year later, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau released only a status update, not the comprehensive probe report that the country was expecting. Now, the preliminary report, released within a month of the crash, featured a brief paraphrased pilot exchange that sparked speculation and put the spotlight on the cockpit crew. Demands for the full cockpit transcript grew louder, with the argument that only the complete conversation can reveal the truth. A year later, the families of the 260 victims are still waiting for answers and closure. Amidst the long wait, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has told Supreme Court that it expects to complete the investigation within 6 weeks. It says that it will file a draft report, a final draft report that is likely to be ready by October. As far as the Supreme Court preparation are concerned, it is preparing to hear petitions seeking an independent probe into the Ahmedabad air crash on July 17. Now, the Centre and AAIB have taken a firm stand. In its affidavit, while the AAIB has told the Apex Court that law absolutely prohibits the disclosure of the cockpit voice recorder or the airborne image recordings from June 12, 2025 crash to any external committee or the public. AAIB says that sharing the CVR data would violate Rule 17.1 and Rule 17.5, read with Schedule C of the Aircraft Investigation of Accidents and Incidents Rules 2005. Here's what the affidavit specifically mentions. Let's quickly take you through what the affidavit has stated, and this is what has been declared. In fact, as far as the affidavit is concerned, the first is that they have come out to say that when it comes to the cockpit voice recorder itself, it cannot be shared. They've further gone on to say that the declaration as far as the statutory prohibition on sharing cockpit recordings is concerned, so that is completely disallowed. Third, that the CVR and the airborne image recordings have been protected. Fourth declaration, protection ensures that there is witness candor. They've also gone far as to say that the CVR protection preserves that there is no blame on the probe process. So this is very important in terms of protecting the CVR itself. Let's quickly open this up and take it across to our guest joining us. With us is Captain Amit Singh, we have who's an aviation expert and founder of Safety Matters. We also have Parvez Damania, former executive director of Kingfisher Airlines Limited. Sanjay Lazar is aviation expert and CEO of AV Alaz. We have Dr. VN Jha, former IAF officer, with us on the show. Let me first come across to you, Captain Amit Singh. What do you make of AIB's reply? Is it fair? Because they are saying that they are going as per what is there in the aircraft rules and as far as Indian law is concerned.
Yeah, they're going as per the Indian rules, but they're skipping a lot of steps and procedures. In their explanation, they are the only organization which is mandated to carry out an investigation. However, under Rule 12, the investigation can be conducted by a court of inquiry. So that is also there, which they have clearly sidestepped. And since they are going from top to bottom that we are complying with every regulation, suddenly they skipped Rule 12 and they jumped to Rule 13. So was Rule 12 considered by them and dismissed, or never ever considered? That we don't know. And nor does the affidavit talk about that. They say we are experts and we are independent. So independence is as per their own definition, but the same affidavit quotes or gives an IQ doc 9756, which says the independence has to be functional, autonomous, and realistic. There has to be independent staffing, and it has to be embedded in the legislation, which means there cannot be any influence or interference from the political organization or bureaucracy. And the staffing has to be independent, which means there should not be any deputation that people come and go back because they are answerable to their parent organization. There has to be financially independent. They should not be dependent on the ministry for funds, salaries, promotions, appointments, etc. And they have given the example of the US and other organizations, which EASA, Europe, which are answerable to the parliament or a committee of parliament. So that is how you attain independence. And very clearly in the last point, ICAO says that mere appointment of a AIB does not mean independence if their appointments and financial considerations are being met by
let me bring in the counter point of view as well. Group Captain V.N. Jha, would you like to respond to that? Because the ICAO recommendation, while it may have been adopted, the point is being made over here by Captain Amit Singh that it's not being implemented in true spirit, because all the norms, many of the norms are being violated in terms of the independence of the AIB, in terms of who it's accountable to, in terms of how quickly it's bringing out these reports, because the families, end of the day, need closure.
Madhav, let me first remind myself that when we are talking of aircraft accident investigation, it is purely technical-based, factual-based investigation that we are talking of. In Indian Air Force, I had done about 7 fatal aircraft accidents. But then the civil aircraft accident is slightly different from that. But the process remains the same. When the scope of investigation is to look into the cause, look into those aspects which caused the aircraft failure, which caused the accident, and the subsequent events that unfolded subsequently. So coming on to this, as Captain Amit Singh was just now mentioning, something should look logical into our interpretation, and that wherever there is a subjectivity, there is a scope for error, or there is a scope for speculation therein. Having said that, I must say that this particular
why not bring out the CVR? Nothing that you've said argues why the CVR or the other data should not come out in the public domain. Because if there is speculation today, it's because of the AIB's preliminary report, which came out in 1 month, that released a sliver of that conversation. They should have just released the whole thing.
Very right, very right. We also read that preliminary report, into which there was a mention of the cockpit voice recorder, into which there were some aspects which were being questioned, whether it is leading to so-and-so status, pilot to be blamed, something the pilot should not have done. No, those cockpit voice recorder is something that right now we can just say that yes, that is one aspect. But then think of the same switch.
So what will happen? What will happen if it's released? Please tell us what will happen if it's released.
Look, it can be released if there is a procedure.
But that is what AAIB is opposing. That is what we are debating here.
Madhav, there is a slight bit of difference. If this cockpit voice recorder is showing something, initially, not many of us, we felt that it was a suicidal tendency on one pilot, whether he deliberately switched it off. It is
so that is why his father is the petitioner, sir. That is why Captain Sabharwal's father, Mr. Pushkar Sabharwal, is petitioning, saying that he wants the truth to come out. Madhav, and he has been a DGC officer himself, which is the irony of the whole situation.
Leave right now everything out of the purview of the accident investigation. Those things can be taken up subsequently. But if there is something which can influence the accident investigation, cockpit voice recorder, it is not, I'm not privy to that. It should not be shown to anyone. Yes, let all those experts who can elaborate onto those words that has transpired between the pilot
That's
and the
exactly the point. Globally, there are so many experts waiting for the data, which is the global practice. Let me bring in Sanjay Lazar on this. Sanjay Lazar, the global experience is this, that after about a year, normally the details come out. And then it's for all the global experts, because there may be experts in the regulators over here, there are investigators over here, but there are globally the best of experts who can analyze and find out if there is genuinely some technical infirmity which can better make the airlines and the sky safer. But that's not happening in this case.
Thank you, Madhav, for having me on your show. And I completely agree with Captain Amit. First of all, there should be I call for a judicial inquiry the next day after the crash. I believe there should be. There has been a track record. I have very little faith and hope in this AAIB. Let me make that very clear, whether it's a prejudice or whether it's through experience. Secondly, there has been a track record in India, and I'm making this before I talk about the international, of releasing transcripts. Okay, and I'm going back to the Kanishka right down to Air India Express 814, and I mean these are on the net. Any guy could just Google them and take them out. Okay, let's as part of the final report. Now we come to, of course, ICAO 13 mandates that you should not release the recording. I accept that. However, it is necessary. The preliminary report having leaked one line, very obviously trying to taint the pilots, I think it is incumbent on the government, the DGCA, the AAIB, the regulatory framework to now come clean. Whether the law permits it or not, if it was a court of inquiry under 12, section 12, they would have been definitely inclined to release the transcript. Now we go to the FAA and the NTSB, the USB. You look at USC law 49, section 491114. CVR recordings are protected under ICAO mandate, but transcripts are allowed if relevant. Now let me tell you which transcripts they've released in the last 10 years. United Airlines Flight 232, Colgan Air 3407, TWA Flight 800. I can go on. There are about 16 instances. And we are talking about, that the truth shouldn't come out. Who are we trying to protect here? Here is a petitioner who is the father of a dead pilot. He has gone to court with pilots' organizations and safety organizations. He is willing to take the hit. I'm not saying release it in public, but put the transcript out as part of your final report. If you were so confident enough to put it 1 year ago and then slur the pilots and excuse the aircraft and the engine manufacturers, I think it's high time that you come clean.
Absolutely.
India
I couldn't agree more with you. Let me bring in Parvez Damania on that note. Parvez Damania, the name of the pilot has been dragged in mud. Internationally, he's been blamed. And the cause of all that is a preliminary report which gave out a small chunk of the conversation without any context, without who's saying it, whether it's pilot A, pilot B, what happened before that in the conversation, what happens after, all of that is omitted, and just that selective leak happens. 1 year later, still the AIB is protecting that particular piece of conversation, whereas the whole world is wanting to know what has happened. So these delays, they may have genuine delays, I'm not second guessing that, but coming out to say that this is protected under Indian law, Sanjay Lazar made the point clear. If you've besmirched his reputation, you have a duty to clear his reputation when his poor father is coming out to the court, knocking on the doors of the court, asking for justice.
Madhav, if you read the preliminary report that came after 30 days, that has clarified each and every point. And each and every point they've clarified saying this is not the cause, fuel contamination is not the cause, weather was not the cause, the aircraft checks were done in time, engine condition were okay. Every point they've clarified, conveying ultimately that the only grey area is the pilots. Now, in the pilots, they've not even clarified who said what. One pilot said, "Why did you shut off?" And it said the other person says, "I did not shut off." They could have easily said whether the co-pilot said it, the pilot said it. So the whole preliminary report is very grey and very indirectly points to the pilots. Now, what I'm saying now, when the final report comes, everything should be open. Who is the government trying to protect? Are they trying to protect Air India? Are they trying to protect the aircraft manufacturer? Are they trying to protect Honeywell? But somebody is definitely trying to protect some people. Even when the Tatas were willing to pay compensation, the compensation document said that they will not seek any litigation against the engine manufacturer, DGCA, aircraft manufacturer, everybody. So definitely somebody is trying to cover up something. And the transcript should be made public. God forbid, even if the pilot is at fault, let it be. Everything should be open and made public. I think the government and the DGCA and the airport and the ministry, everybody is trying to do a big cover-up job.
Okay.
Ultimately, one side you have Boeing, one side you have Tatas, one side you have GE, one side you have Honeywell, and the other side you have the pilot. So I think this is very wrong.
Any of
what is
those could
happening.
be under
Everything
suspicion
should
right
be
now
made
because we don't know what has happened.
to everybody.
There are, of course, complementary theories. There are those who say the electricals could have been the reason. In fact, several of the whistleblowers, including Ed Pearson, who has come out in the past talking about what could be the possible theory.
Once the other flight that came in from UK to Bangalore, the pilot did complain of the fault of the switch.
Yes.
If you remember, the plane flew in from UK to Bangalore, and after that, the pilot wrote in the snag that the switch was malfunctioning.
And then DGCA says that this is a one-off because it was not properly engaged. That was the clarification that came in from the regulator.
No, but the switch has a... See, you have some of the biggest expert pilots on the panel. The switch has a proper locking system. It is not something by touch of a hand, it goes on and off. It's a proper, where you pull and put it in a lock position. So it's not something that by mistake could have happened. Okay. Either it was deliberately done, or there could have been a mechanical or technical failure.
Okay, Captain Amit Singh, let me bring you in one aspect of this, and this is what government, I've been speaking to people in the government about this. They say that no country follows the ICAO guidelines perfectly. They are guidelines. They are not rules, number one. Number two, they say even in the US, the NTSB is tasked with probing all the aviation incidents, but it's only the serious accidents that they probe. The FAA itself also probes several of those. So if the United States itself is not following it, then every country has its own sovereign right to decide when it comes to issues pertaining to aviation. How do you respond to that?
Well, Annex 13, there are standards which are mandatorily supposed to be complied with. Then there are recommendations. So standards and recommendations, they're called SAPs. So recommendations, they have an option, not really, but recommendation also means that you have to make your best effort to comply with it. Does not mean that you can either do it or dispose it off. So standards are something which are to be met, and the writ also clean, the reply to the writ also very clearly states the process followed by AAIB for the investigation, which starts from the Chicago Convention, Annex 13, the Indian regulations. However, it skips the AAIB procedures manual, which clearly states that a major catastrophic accident must be investigated under Rule 12 or a court of inquiry. So besides that, there are certain issues like AIB said that we have conducted 218 investigations, out of which 97 are accident investigations. However, they have not conducted a single major catastrophic accident investigation. So they do not have an experience in carrying out an accident investigation of this nature or size. So that is why a Rule 12 investigation by AIB is inadequate. They do not have the experience or the expertise. They have to conduct a court of inquiry where experts can come in from around the world and contribute to get to the root cause. Historically, if you see, all the accidents have started with Rule 11, an internal inquiry, and those have been taken over by a court of inquiry. I'd like to highlight the Bangalore A320 accident. Everybody would have known about that investigation, in which the report clearly said, Justice Rao has said that the investigation was initiated under Rule 11. That time it was Rule 71. However, I would recommend that the analysis should not be released by the investigator, the DGC investigator, to cause embarrassment to the court, which means a different outcome could come from a court of inquiry because more experts are involved in that. ICAO says that a major investigation accident, the state may not be in a position to investigate that accident because because of the complex nature of the investigation. So that is why so many people are required, whereas AIB is trying to eliminate the experts and take in few experts of their choice.
Okay. Let me bring in Sanjay. Yeah, let me bring in Sanjay on that. Sanjay, one of the points that is being made also is that because of the manner in which this crash has happened, because, the entire aircraft fuselage was broken, it was burnt, etc. It's that much tougher to carry out a probe, and therefore it requires a lot more time, a lot more expertise, as Captain Amit Singh says. So would you buy into AIB's argument when it says that it needs time up until October?
Of course, I buy into their argument that it needs time until October. But I also look at that argument and I believe that they do not have the skill sets to have done it quickly. They should have brought in type-rated, like Amit says, they should have had international experts on this. This is the first 787 going down. Remember that, in the world. Therefore, it needed additional, inspection. It needed additional care. And on the point of, the AAIB not giving transcripts, etc., the NTSB does 90% of all accidents in the US. Small little commuter planes and stuff, they don't get into, the FAA themselves do it. But let's look at the AAIB of the UK. They give you transcripts. Let's look at EASA. They give you transcripts. Only AAIB India seems to be holding on to that accident investigation rules of 2025 May, which again, like Amit says correctly, clause 11 talks of a court of inquiry. Therefore, I believe we should invite, if we are got nothing to hide, and like Mr. Damania says, we have nobody to, we are not protecting anybody, then allow international experts to come in, and let it be open as a court of inquiry. Appoint a sitting High Court judge or a retired Supreme Court judge to sit on it and bring your experts.
Parvez Damania, should we do that? Should we bring in international experts? That's a suggestion coming in from Sanjay Lazar as well as Captain Amit Singh.
No, I am very clear. Let us bring, let us look at the human element also. Think of the people whose families have been destroyed. Even they want to know what is the truth. If somebody's child has died, somebody's brother has died, they want to know what happened. What is wrong in publishing or giving out the exact information? Even if Boeing is at fault, say Boeing is at fault. No, we should bell the cat here. What are we hiding? Why are we going round and round?
I know, and there's billions of dollars. Each of those aircrafts costs, thousands of crores of rupees, and therefore, if there are several of these aircrafts which are circulating globally, one can only imagine the value of the implications if there's any kind of technical fault that is found out. We'll have to leave it there at the moment. Captain Amit Singh, Parvez Damania, Sanjay Lazar, Group Captain V.N. Jha, all eyes on what Supreme Court will do when this matter is scheduled to come up on Friday and what action the Apex Court will take. For the moment, slipping into a quick break.